everybody. Welcome to this special screening of Valentino, the Last Emperor. Can we please welcome the filmmaker, Matt Tyrnauer. Tell us about your film.
Well, you know, it's a documentary, and it's the result of 2 years of filming and 270 hours of footage that's cut down into 90 minutes. And most movies, or anything you write, you embark upon something and you come out with something completely different than you thought you would get.
To me, the dream of my life, to see those beautiful lady of the silver screen. I think from that moment, I decided I want to create clothes for ladies.
At first, Vanity Fair journalist turned filmmaker Matt Tyrnauer thought he was making a fashion film on 77-year-old Valentino Garavani.
I know what women want.
And what do they want?
They want to be beautiful.
Tracing the life and 45-year career of Italy's couture maestro. But over 2 years filming Valentino's salubrious celebrity life,
I've seen you in the papers.
Seen him in the papers.
this first-time director also witnessed the fatigue and frustrations behind the glamour. As well as the true force behind Valentino's billion-dollar empire, Giancarlo Giametti, his longtime business partner.
24 ragazze, ti va bene?
No, ma non mettiamo nessuna nana.
In Valentino, the Last Emperor, Matt Tyrnauer provides a rare insight into a partnership that revolutionized fashion and the fashion business.
Today, there is another language, which is money.
They banked $300 million when they sold their company in 2002.
Bravi, bravi.
And 5 years later, Valentino retired, naturally, with great flair. We know that Valentino is notoriously private. He'd never agreed to do anything like this before. He gave you director's cut, which meant that he couldn't intervene whatsoever editorially, which is an incredibly courageous thing to do. So what do you think his motivations were?
There becomes a point, I think, when you're so famous, you're so well known, you almost can't believe how famous you are. And then when you sort of see the end of the career coming, you begin to question, well, how am I going to be remembered?
I love beauty. It's not my fault.
I think in the case of someone who's so visual like Valentino, a film was really the right way.
Fred, s'il te plaît, j'ai des choses à dire à Monsieur Giametti. Je voudrais pas avoir quelqu'un qui me filme, okay?
It's an incredibly precarious relationship. You were negotiating behind the scenes every second that you film.
Yeah, it was hell.
I am here to decide something very important, and I don't want to be filmed. I'm sorry, okay?
You just see the tip of the iceberg there, but the dramas that go on behind the camera, you can imagine.
Est-ce que je peux te parler? Tu me fais comme ça?
We didn't always know what was going on because most of us are English speakers, and a lot of the tantrums and the tough moments were either in French or Italian.
Ma non me ne frega niente, io lavorerò per 40 quando vado a Parigi.
They very often don't really seem to be quite sure if you're catching them or not. Were they wearing chest mics or radio mics?
Our method was never to have a secret camera or a secret microphone. They were asked frequently to wear a very tiny microphone that went into the knot of their tie.
So they kind of knew they were being recorded.
They did forget sometime.
No, j'ai pas de bord. Pense à toi, avec toi, trois épaisseurs maintenant.
That scene, I think, really became the central moment of the movie. That we got that very early on. We realized that a movie that I think going in we thought would be a great sweep and lots of aerial shots and long shots of chateaux and boats became really a movie about intimate dialogue between the two men, which I think really carries the film because they're so funny together. They don't even know they're funny, but they're also very moving too, very touching.
Questo è un po' troppo scuro.
Bronzato? No.
No, un pochino meno non cambia niente.
Ma adesso diventerò.
What's interesting about the film is you show how he does make that huge leap and by dressing very influential women. Now, one of them is obviously Jackie Kennedy.
Mrs. Kennedy certainly was among those people that were in the club of high fashion, but President Kennedy was killed in 1963, and by happenstance, Valentino was in New York, where Jackie Kennedy had moved after she left the White House, and he showed her the entire collection, and she then took each one of the dresses, but in black. And that was her mourning attire for the next couple of years. You can imagine what that would do to someone's reputation. And overnight, really, he became a world figure.
But then he got to design her wedding dress when she married Onassis.
That's right.
And this was my beginning, the beginning of my career with all the silver screen movie stars.
Did you have a specific ideal about how you wanted to develop the actual storyline?
It changed a lot as we went along. When we saw that they started to plan this mad party in Rome, that was supposed to be the biggest event in fashion ever, and I think it was, we realized that we had a third act. Whether he was going to stop designing or not, it wasn't announced publicly until after, and I wasn't privy to the truth.
Do you think he really wanted to leave the fashion business, or was it more that he was pushed out because of the business takeover?
I think Valentino was very ambivalent. I think he is still very able. He's, was probably designing at the height of his powers, but it's a youth-obsessed culture we live in, especially in fashion. And I think he might have been ready to go, but I also think there was something in there that was also kind of tugging him back. I think it's sort of nice to leave it ambiguous in a certain way.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So how is the world for Valentino right now?
Valentino is retired, and I think he's becoming adjusted to this life.
The premiere at the Venice Film Festival, which Valentino showed up at, very glamorous it was. And he got a standing ovation, and I was in that room.
And he stood up and addressed the crowd from the balcony. They all turned to him, and he sort of somewhat Mussolini-like began a waving routine and then burst into tears.
It was a lovely moment. But then he went to the press conference straight after, and he was incredibly gracious about this film.
Le film, je m'excuse, il a été exactement comment je suis.
I think he accepted the film and now quite likes it. But, I think he was very uncertain to let himself be seen in this way. I mean, if you've read anything about Valentino, for the most part, historically, you see a very controlled picture. You don't see anything near what you were able to see in this movie.
Could we please thank the filmmaker here, Matt, for coming along and showing his film, Valentino, The Last Emperor.
Thank you.
Every dress, every girl, every moment of a feather or rustle. But there's so much restraint and exuberance. Triumph of the will. Triumph of the will!
20 years ago, director Mira Nair shot a film in Uganda with Denzel Washington. She met her husband there and fell in love with the country as well. And now she's returning the favour.
They cannot kill me. It is in my dream.
Forrest Whitaker's Oscar-winning performance as 70s dictator Idi Amin in The Last King of Scotland put the spotlight on Uganda.
I'm surrounded by traitors.
And a history that meant the country had no real filmmaking voices until recently.
Muzanga, Kuja.
Kevin MacDonald's film not only starred top Ugandan actor Abiy Makibi as Amin's security chief,
he will handle all of my security matters from now on. Yes, sir.
It also employed thousands of locals as extras.
Action!
Sound!
4 years on, a filmmaking lab called Maisha
Scene 15, take 3, market.
has been set up by world-famous Indian director Mira Nair.
Beautiful light here this time.
On this side, yeah.
So lovely.
Yeah.
Maisha is here to create local film culture, in East Africa, told by East Africans, and in all its variety and beauty and power.
The course is being pounced on by Ugandans and other East Africans.
Stand by, everybody!
For me, film is a medium of passing messages that are going to change the attitudes of people.
Marker!
So I believe I'm going to make my continent a better continent.
Action! For East Africa, we have like 1,001 different cultures, 1,001 different fables, So I think it's very important that we develop our film culture because we have stories to tell. It's something that has been untapped. Cut.
It's most important I can learn more, I can get more experience, and I can work then for my life.
Mira Nair has used her success with films like these
Stay still, I beg you.
to attract the funding and mentors she needs to get Maisha on its feet.
You create an enormous sort of filmmaking family. If you put it on a platter and say, listen, give me 2 weeks of your life or 3 weeks of your life and come to this extraordinary country, Uganda, and work with us with a full and open heart with our students. People say yes. People almost never say no.
We could cover that window a little bit. Okay, much better.
We train filmmakers in every aspect of the business, from screenwriting to directing to producing to the technical aspects of sound, editing, and camera.
Now you're a DP. You're squished into a space that you can't believe.
Nair hasn't just lent her name to the school, she's very much a hands-on mentor.
No one ever does one take, right? I always say one for love, and then the
one
next
for love, yeah.
one for safety. It's tough. It's like a boot camp for cinema. You know, you wake up at 6 a.m., you work on 5 scripts with 5 students, you do everything, you're hands-on. But it will make you feel enriched.
Nearly there.
After 2 weeks training and a 3-day shoot, the students' debut movies are complete.
Cut.
Cut!
Sins of the Parents challenges misconceptions about AIDS.
You a murderer, that's what you are.
The final cut, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Let me say thank you to my editor and director.
I want to work on some shots, yeah, before the end of the year. At least I make 1 short film or 2 short films.
And On Time is about a young girl struggling to feed her sick mother.
The best for me that I'm really going to take with me and like work on is the screenwriting, because I learned so much and my interest is writing, and I'm definitely going to write like 1,001 scripts after this.
Ambitious.
Please.
But is there a local demand for local films?
We need people to be able to pay to go to the cinema and watch a Ugandan film and say, you know what, that's as good of a story as what we're getting from abroad.
Kampala's cinemas are far too pricey for most, but at 7 cents a go, informal video halls are booming, proving there is an audience out there, waiting for new local filmmakers like the Maisha graduates to emerge.
Well, that's it for this fabulous picture show, and I'm standing on my tiptoes so I don't look like one of those small people you get talking about in the film. I like that, huh? Talk about being a hiatus. Thank you so much for bringing your film.
Thank you for having us.
So was this hell or was this an adventure during this show?
It was heaven.
We like you. You can come back.
Thank
Hope you join us as well on the next fabulous picture show.
But a lot of people say no one can replace you.
Après moi le déluge. You know what it means?
What did you think of the film?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it a 9. We've got to see him in so many different moods, as an emotional character, as a strong, influential designer.
He's just very, very hardworking.
It's a movie with a heart. It shows fashion with emotions.